Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Anything But Where Anything Goes. My name is Miguel.
I'm Brendan.
And welcome, folks, to episode 99. We're almost there. We're almost up the hill.
Yes, we are.
Today, folks, we're talking about the brand new gaming TV show, Fallout. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's very interesting. I'm actually really fucking excited for a show I didn't want to exist.
I'm so excited to talk about this. It's been so long. It's been so long since I went in not expecting greatness.
Yeah. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Any links that we're talking about will also be listed down below. All right, Brendan.
Yeah.
Tell me about the budget. Because now the roles are reversed today. Usually I'm the
Yes.
guy behind the computer, but not happening.
Well, if the rules are reversed, then I'm going to make you do what you make me do.
That's
What do
perfectly
you
fine.
think the budget is?
I feel like it's Amazon, it's Fallout, and it looked beautiful. It's got to be like a 10 or 15 million per episode.
Give me as a whole.
As a whole,
As a whole.
$130.
$150.
I was close.
Yeah,
I was going to
not
say
bad.
150 too.
Yeah.
8 episodes, that's like 18 million an episode. And you could see it too.
Yeah.
It definitely looks good. I already know the Rotten Tomatoes. I know the audience is like a 97 and the critic is a 94.
No. The tomato meter versus the popcorn thing. The popcorn is the audience.
Yes.
The critic rating is a 94. The audience is now at an 87.
Really?
It's dipping a little bit.
It was at like a 97 this morning. Are they review bombing it?
Why?
Because there's no way, knowing Rotten Tomatoes, there's no way it dropped 10% in like a day.
Is there any way for me to see that?
I mean, you could Google it. Just Google like Fallout review bomb. I feel like, but why would they review bomb? Is it mad? Are people mad because there's a trans person in it, or what we assume is, or who we assume a trans person is?
Maybe, or you and me discuss this off camera. It could be
Yeah.
a Mulan situation. We don't know.
We have no idea. I just mean like if they're gonna review bomb, my assumption is that's what it is.
Yeah. Fallout 2024 potential for review bombing.
There's a website for it.
It's on IMDb.
What a wonderful country we live in.
I'm not really seeing a whole lot, so
Maybe maybe I just don't know how to fucking read.
Maybe
I'm illiterate.
Yeah, but you know what? 87's too fucking low.
It is.
It's far too
listen,
low.
okay. So let's start with the background,
Yeah.
right? Tell me a little bit about your background, because my assumption is you're a diehard Fallout fan. My first introduction for it was you running into gym class in high school and going, dude, the teaser trailer for Fallout 4 just dropped. And me going,
So
what the fuck
I'm
is
gonna
that?
start with the story. Fallout 4's trailer dropped while I was in history class.
Yes.
Towards the end of the year, because it was around E3 times, if not like a
When
week
E3
before.
was still a thing and
Yes,
wasn't.
and was glorious.
Yes.
Probably when this trailer
was
dropped,
probably
was
like the
probably the
last
last
one.
time that it
Yeah.
mattered. Yeah. And I remember I was in history class and everyone was huddled around my desk because I was screaming the trailer. And my teacher went, "Can we just? I know it's almost the end of the year, but can we just focus on? Just give me 2 minutes. This trailer just
Everybody in
dropped."
the back of the class like, fuck you, man.
And my teacher just went, "I mean, guys, is that really the best?" And like we just all ignored him.
Yeah.
We were like,
This is important.
This is important
Because this
to
is
us."
post like Fallout 3 and New Vegas. So Fallout was like
Yeah,
peaking.
it was. Skyrim was the last game that Bethesda put out
Oh, yes.
beforehand.
The first time, not the ninth
didn't-
time.
Yeah, well, no, there was like 2 or 3 at this point. So we got to that point. We're like, oh my god, new shit. And
Yeah.
I played New Vegas. I played 3. I did not play 1, 2, Tactics, any of that
Before it became the open world thing that it is.
before Bethesda acquired it.
Yes.
But I did watch a YouTube channel. Shout out to Shoddycast, where they had this Traveler series where they had a guy just go over the lore of everything.
The
So
one you were telling me to watch and then
that you didn't.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. Was it like a 10-hour thing?
It was like 70 episodes that were like 10 minutes apiece, I think.
I don't got time for that. Okay,
It's
continue.
really good.
I'm sure.
But
Maybe this will be my next hyperfixation.
maybe. But just a heads up, I want to make this very clear. I do like the Fallout games. I'm just really bad at them. So I have some frustrations and whatever to where I don't actually play them to the extent that I would play, say, Skyrim or other Bethesda games.
We are on the same page.
because like the lore and everything
There's
is just
so much. It can
it's-
become overwhelming.
no,
No?
That's not what I was gonna say.
Fuck.
It's just there's so much lore and it's all
Mm.
fantastic, and the gameplay requires me to do things in order to get there and do
Yeah.
that lore. But I'd much rather just go on YouTube and look at
And
the
watch
history. Like
that's-
it's a real timeline.
Yeah, that is like me with because I'm still on my Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
kick. The same thing where I'm like, I want to play through all these games and I quickly fall off and I'm like, I'm just going to watch like 10 hours worth of lore videos.
Yeah, because it's
instead.
just good.
It's so
The
interesting.
storytelling is great.
I'm
and-
not going to fucking watch this guy beat up these
Yeah.
13 bosses where he had to train for like 2 weeks to fight these online things.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like,
And
Do it.
that's why this show was something that I kind of got
Yes.
so excited for. Right off the bat, I wasn't very excited because I'm like, it's Amazon. They're going to fuck it up like they did Lord of the Rings and just
Yeah.
ignore it and be like, oh, we're on for 3 more
I mean,
seasons. And it's
honestly,
just like,
right?
you do realize that 70% of your population dropped out before
Yeah.
season 1 ended. Why are you making 2 more seasons?
Mhm. I mean, like, right. So first, my background is very similar to yours. Only not in like the lore sense, but in the sense of I love Fallout 4.
Yeah.
I didn't play 76. I didn't buy it because you let me borrow it. I played it. I wasn't a fan whatsoever. But this
I
was
don't-
launch.
Nobody was at launch.
Yeah, at
I
launch.
still don't. I never got back into it.
I've thought about it. I've played Fallout 4, I think cumulatively like 25 hours.
Yeah.
But that's over the span of like 10 years.
Okay.
However long the game's been out. Because I'll go into it, I'll dive, and whatever, but then I'll get lost or I'll get confused.
Yeah.
I like open world games, but not to the extent of Fallout.
Mhm.
Like Assassin's Creed to me is perfect, or the earlier ones,
The
because
old
it's like
one, yes.
open world, but
it's
it's like
just compact
it's like
enough to
this
where-
much open
yeah.
world. Then you play the newer ones, they're like planet.
We did Origins. Let's just. Do you see that pyramid over there? You can go there. That's great. Oh wait, there's nothing around.
There's nothing
it
in
for
between.
Like a
It's
fucking
just
mile,
running
and
on
you're
a
just
horse.
Gonna have me do a quest on the opposite side of the map and go open world.
Yes,
No,
that's not it.
put
You
it next door, man. What the fuck?
or give me fast travel, something.
Yeah.
But that's my background, right? You talking about Amazon? I agree. Right? I don't fucking care about Lord of the Rings, as we've touched on.
Mhm.
Link in the bio. But so I never watched Rings of Power, but their output, like their track record right now, is not bad. Their app fucking sucks, right? Their user interface for the Prime Video is hot garbage, especially on the web, because you just go on to Amazon and they're like, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. Fallout, and you're like,
We just go on the Prime app, not the Amazon app.
oh, no, I'm talking about like on PC or on the web. If you go on the web, there's no
Oh.
app.
Oh, okay.
You have to go through
Yeah, I don't use
Amazon
that.
and then
Okay. So I have this small issue with the show that I don't know if it was just happened to be something that's going on with my Xbox version of the app that I'm using or whatnot.
Mhm.
But the show looked really sharp and grainy to me, and the darks weren't dark enough, and it just didn't seem as
Yeah.
HD as it was supposed to be. But I don't want to put that on the show because I do know that Amazon has had problems with the apps from time to time with it not coming
and the
through correct.
optimization on the different things. I'll say, right, if you want to get technical
Yeah.
about it, a lot of baked-in TV apps kind of suck. That's why we don't use them. But it's also the optimization between the two talking to each other
Mhm.
is 50-50.
Yeah.
You have a Sony TV. If you were on a PlayStation, they would talk together better. And I'm sure the show would look a little better. My Apple TV, Apple's whole thing is they're like, we know what you're going to put it on like a shitty TV or whatever
Yeah.
it's going to be. There are so many different aspects to optimize it.
Mhm.
To me, on my fucking 65 LG, stellar. I even watched it on the monitor.
Yeah.
No HDR or anything. Stellar. Colors looked beautiful. There's so much sad fucking yellow. Everyone's upset.
The colors did still pop and everything.
Yeah.
It was just the sharpness. So I want to see if maybe I go like a month or two with the app updates. Maybe
Yeah, if there's
it'll
more.
fix it, or
Mm.
I, like you said, watch it on my phone or just see a clip
Yeah.
on your TV.
Yeah.
But
So how do you want to get into the show? Do you want to go like episode to episode? Do you want to talk characters?
I'm gonna start off with the characters because I think that that's
Okay.
the most important for me. Because I said that I suck at playing the game
Mm.
and I like the lore. A lot of problems I have with maybe watching Let's Plays or whatever on YouTube
Mm.
is just, even though it's fun, they're not doing exactly what I would do. So it's
Exactly.
just a little frustrating sometimes.
You want to do it without having to do it.
This show somehow completely sidestepped that problem for me.
Yes.
And it's because of the 3 main characters. And I'm going to
Mhm.
break them down really quick because I feel like this is why it's such a good show.
First, you have Cecil from Invincible.
No way.
Yeah, that's
Really?
yeah.
Walter Goggins.
Yes.
Which, by the way, Fallout name immediately. Don't change
Yes,
his name.
amazing.
Just
Don't
put
even
him-
change
Put
it.
him in universe.
Cowboy. Yeehaw.
Yes. Yeehaw. Yahi.
Don't talk about the opening yet.
Okay.
Let's touch characters,
Okay.
then we'll talk story.
So I'm going to break this down as kind
You
of
gotta
who-
stop kicking that microphone.
it's the wire that's wrapped around my foot. The characters as a technical difficulties.
Can't wait to hear what that sounds like. Make sure that logo is in front of you too, please.
It is.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I'm gonna start
Walter
off
Goggins.
with he's the last one I'm gonna
Okay.
touch on. The first
Lucy?
one is Lucy. She is your stereotypical
Damsel in distress.
no.
No?
She's your stereotypical vault dweller. She's your stereotypical. I'm gonna play Fallout. I'm gonna go in and hope that I can fix this world. Optimist.
She's
playing
your
a
point of view
Fallout game
character.
for the first time.
Yes.
And just kind of being like, what is
Let's
this
figure
world?
out what the fuck's
am I
going
going
on.
in?
Yes.
What's going on? And I love that. And you see her
Mhm.
get a little bit more hardened throughout it,
Mhm.
and at a good pace. It didn't
Yeah.
really feel rushed. She just
No.
had a fucking rough week.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
So she's got that character, and I've been that character. And the second one is the dude in the Brotherhood.
Maximus.
Maximus, who is me when I'm sitting there going, I've I don't really give a fuck about what this really is.
Yes.
I want my set of power armor,
Yes.
and I'm gonna blitz through
This
the
is
Brotherhood
it-
campaign.
It's me going, okay, I want to follow the story, but as you're following along in like the main quest,
You're like,
it's,
can we
it's
just
like
speed this up?
no, not even. You're following along on the main quest, and then it's like, hey man, you could come do this quest with me, and then you get stuck on all these other things, but you're like, I really just want to just get the reward.
Yeah.
Okay. If that means I get the power armor, then so fucking be it.
I want to be this power armor. Well, you got to do
Yeah.
this quest, and you got to do this quest, and you got to move up, and you're like looking around in your world.
And he speed runs it by killing somebody.
Yeah, and
Right.
you're just like, there's no one else around. I could just kill you and take your suit, which is,
exactly what he does.
exactly what he does. So I love that he was that character, which is still kind of like a noob.
It's
an
also
idiot to the
still
world,
like
and
a
just
point of view,
rushing.
the gamer character.
Yes.
It's who you are.
And then you get to the ghoul, Walter Goggins, who is the guy
So
who's
good.
played the campaign 9 times, runs in, gets dog meat immediately because he
That's
knows
right.
he's the fucking best,
That's right.
finds the cool armor, and just goes ham on people because he knows where the fuck he's
Fucking
been.
love
He's
dog
been
meat.
here for years. Exactly.
Shout out dog meat.
Except it's not dog meat in the show.
No,
It's a different
Looks the
dog
same.
breed as well.
looks very similar.
Yes, very much so.
So my mental brain will say,
Say it's
dog
the
meat.
same. Yes, it's actually a number like C4 or some shit. Whatever.
Never.
But I'm just saying.
CX404.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Didn't
I
expect
had
you to know that.
subtitles on, so it was
Yeah.
constantly there. It was like CX44 Winnie.
So just saying that those 3 aspects of those different kinds of characters, which I've been all of them,
Yep.
was just great because no matter who was on screen, I related to them. I saw what they were doing.
Yeah.
Having said that, the dude in the Brotherhood may be the absolute fucking dumbest person I have seen in a TV show ever who does not have a mental disability is just that
idiot.
dumb.
So for me with the characters, I think that's where they hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's definitely like they went from this point of view of like, look, we have to have this story and whatever it is, but the way that this is going to be feel like a game is that they need to feel like players and they're going through a story. They're not just these people with these coincidences of these things that happen.
Yes.
Like Lucy's like, oh, I'm here and this is my character. This is my charisma. And I'm talking to this guy and he goes, hey, whatever. And you're like, oh, I'm going to be nice. Maybe we could trade. I'll give you some water. You give me directions. And then she learns the hard way. Oh, he drank all the water. Now the way I think about situations is going to change
Yes.
from there on forward. Instead of her being like, oh my God, okie dokie, flip the fucking hair and figure out. That's probably the only thing I didn't like.
Okay.
Her fucking catchphase.
So
it
I have
it
one
was
question.
cute.
Heavy spoilers on this right now because it's in like the last 30 seconds
We're
of the show.
entirely spoiling the entire thing.
Yes. She does say okie dokie at the end after she puts a bullet in her
mother's.
zombified mom's face.
Yes.
Okay, and that was the only time I didn't like her because she seemed a little bit too hard-assed to where I'm like, I want you to grow and become like more like gritty with this
Yeah.
universe, but like I don't want you to just flip between season 1 and 2 to being like a complete
Yeah.
like hardened psychopathic murderer. Like I
That's
still want to
the
see a
point
bit
where
more.
I'm like, it's clear. It's because it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
They're doing all right. She has to have it. We want her to have a catchphrase, so she says it a bunch of times during
But
the
I
show,
like it.
and it's perfect.
Yeah.
Until that last one. That's the
Yes.
one that set it off.
Yeah,
for me.
I didn't like
'Cause I
that.
was like, look, I get why you did it. Right, payoff, fine. Emotional, evolutional moment, fine. Give her a new one. Say something else.
It's not that she should have a new one. It's just that she said it a little bit too menacingly to where
Yeah.
she kind of seemed like a psychopath a little bit.
It just didn't make sense.
And
to me.
it just jumped a little a notch or two too
Yeah.
high. But having said that, a lot of her other character, like she had all these layers, and they made this a point when they introduced her. Like she's like, I do like some survival
Which
stuff. I
was
teach
so fucking
things.
smart.
Yes. So you're not just like, who's this girl who just wanted out?
Well,
of the
how
vault
is it
just-
possible that
She's
she
like,
could do
"No, I've been doing
jujitsu and all
classes."
these
Like,
things?
yes, I could shoot, even though I'm not that good at it. But then you start getting into like dire situations. Like I don't think she's missed a shot, but like to be fair, she's usually not very far from people.
No, she's usually like
She
right here.
hasn't done anything wild, but she is accurate.
Yeah.
So seeing her do all this stuff, seeing her kind of get a little roughed up, and then she gets like that basic game leather armor that she puts on. I'm like, that's just
I was like, that's perfect.
that's what you would do.
Exactly.
It's exactly
you would
what you
keep
do.
you would keep the vault dweller thing in your inventory.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't want to get rid of it. It's where you started.
Yes.
But as you find things, you're like, yeah, you know what? Shoulder pad, ammo satchel,
Yeah.
arm, whatever. She had elbow pads at one
Yeah.
point. It's like, yes.
And then sometimes it comes off depending on like what she's doing.
And then
how-
she adds something different.
Yeah.
Or she'll change her outfit. She'll be like, you know what? Now I just want the t-shirt.
One of the other things about her character is I wanted to bring up her sexuality because she seems like coming from that vault. It's like it's a very 1950s vibe, but it's
Yeah.
very much about going against your expectations of what that would be. And she's that girl whose catchphrase is "okie dokie." She comes from this 1950s like atomic family,
Yeah.
stereotypical vault, and you would expect her to be prudish, and she's not.
Complete opposite.
The complete opposite of it.
I
But I
think-
also like that they don't lean into it because, like,
Yeah.
yes, there's nudity in this show and everything, but they didn't go down.
The nudity also comes out of fucking nowhere, but that's
Yeah. We'll get there. But like, it's not like Game of Thrones where they're just like, okay, well, she's gonna be like naked half the time.
Yeah.
That's how we're gonna get this. Like, she's got sexuality, and she's just like, oh, let's fuck, let's do whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like the moment the guy was like, no, she was okay, let's just chill.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's a wasteland. Let's just do whatever.
exactly. We were talking about this before the podcast about kind of like the social norms.
Yeah.
And we won't get into it a lot, but it's basically our thought process is in the vault, some of the social norms would remain and some of them would fall apart based on the
Yes.
amount of time that passed.
Yes.
Right? As generations go, there's not all this because part of what creates norms is the media and the things that you see in your daily life or like news or whatever what people say. In the vault itself, these things have changed. So it's very funny to realize like, okay, so some of the things they're going to pull back are like everybody is almost related at this point. Your cousins. Now it's not like Alabama taboo, you're fucking your cousin. She's like, yeah, you know, that's a normal thing to do when you're younger. You mess around with your cousin, but
Still, no.
to us, very
She
weird.
said you can't be messing around with your cousin like anymore. Like, it wasn't like a, this is completely normal and this is fine, but it wasn't as weird as we would see
Exactly.
it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
It's. I felt like in the beginning, in really that first episode, she would be like, oh, you know, I liked in that introduction to her character. She's like, oh, you know, yeah. Fooling around with your cousin's normal when you're younger, but we can't do that long
Yeah.
term. This isn't a viable way to reproduce.
Just like one other like thing that happened during that whole thing that I just really want to talk about because it was so fucking gross is after they fuck when he wipes his dick off on her curtains was the
Yeah.
grossest shit I think was
Yeah.
in that show. That was just like,
I don't like that at all.
it was a big red flag for her, but she was just like,
She's
I
like,
mean,
oh, you know,
vault, it's
different
whatever.
vault. They have different norms and they do different things.
there were so many things in that room that you could have cleaned your dick off with that weren't the curtains. He walked past
Yeah.
multiple items.
I think it's hilarious too
To
that he
go
was
for
like,
those
he was like,
curtains.
all right, so we're gonna try to kill everybody. We're gonna take over the vault, but first, gotta get my dick wet.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
speaking of that, right from there, the violence in this show
great.
out of left field, right?
Not for me.
No, I'm saying very good.
Oh.
Not what I was expecting.
That's what I'm saying. I was kind of expecting it along that route.
But it's also just like the show feels like a normal streaming action TV show.
It's grounded. A lot of
It feels very grounded.
more like
But then it's also like it'll be like, oh, he stabbed me. Now I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna cut his neck or his face. And you're like, all right, that makes sense. On a regular TV show, line of blood. In this TV show, face is hanging
Yeah.
off.
great.
So good. And it happens so
practical
often.
effects on,
Yes.
on
Yes.
everything.
The power armor,
Looks amazing.
beautiful. I'm sure it's not made of metal and it doesn't sound like that.
No,
But it
obviously.
looks so good.
So good.
Oh my god.
And the movement on it and everything, it's like a
Accurate.
clunky, weird fucking thing. And it is how it is. And I remember one point he jumps, and I'm like, that dude was clearly on a wire or they animated that. But at the same time, like, there's no way of you doing that
Yeah.
and it looking kind of normal. Because if he did it too easy, he'd be like, that suit's too heavy to do that.
Mhm.
If they did it the way they did, I'm like, he looked like he floated a little bit there, but at the same time, he's definitely
has
got
to
like
float a little bit.
hydraulics or something. in his
Exactly,
leg.
yeah.
So, like,
I mean, if he could chuck things like a football field, I'm sure
yeah.
jumping, it's
Um,
fine.
There's just so much.
So let's talk episode 1 then.
The opening shot.
Dude, they wasted no fucking time, right?
No.
It's clear in the beginning. They're like, all right, so he's showing her how to do the thumb thing with the nuclear, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, so it's Fallout. That's going to happen. It's going to be a callback thing. You know, he's going to tell her about it. End of the episode at the finale, they're going to go, oh my God. And then the episode cuts. Minute and a half later. She's like, Dad? And you're like, there's no way. that
So-
quickly?
I know we talked about this in Godzilla -1,
Mm.
where I said that they really understood what an atomic bomb would feel like.
Yep.
This managed to give me that real life sensation,
Mm.
but from a different angle.
Yeah.
That I think Oppenheimer failed at, which was the tension
Time?
and the time of the bomb. Because I feel like when that bomb falls, like I don't know
It's
how
not immediate.
necessarily far they were, but
Yeah.
you see it happen and you see the fear in their eyes, and me watching it when I was seeing it go down had like an uncomfortable pit in my stomach.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, this is genuinely like
This feels like a real
this
nuclear
feels-
bomb.
And I'm like, this is horrifying. This is how I imagine, because we live
Yeah.
in New Jersey. Like I can easily picture a bomb falling on New York and us being far enough away
Yeah.
to where that exact thing would happen, to where you would see it and then feel it.
Yeah.
And it's just
It's just so funny because you bring up Godzilla
Yeah.
-1. How you now you have these two perspectives, right?
Yeah.
If you're right there, it's a shot. It's the hit, it's the immediate smoke and the explosion as
Yeah.
it's happening. Versus there, you see it and you see the wind start to move, and they're all frozen. They're like, "Is this really happening?" And the wind is like a smack in the face, and you're like, "Oh shit, that's just wind. The fucking nuke is coming towards us now.
Yeah.
It's time to run."
It's just that whole scene
Yeah.
sets up that
Dude, and then I love
lifestyle. And
the animalistic nature of human beings right there. They showed perfectly
Yeah.
of how they're like, all right, this guy's rich. This guy has a vault or like a small cellar right beneath his house. The party's ending. Everyone's freaking out. He's going down there. And this is Buddy that he was talking shit with before. He's like, all right, everybody down to the vault. He's like, dude, let us in there. It's just the two of us. He's like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, there's a bomb. Go fuck yourself. He's like, no, please. And he hits him with a right hook.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't give a fuck who you are.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. That I liked a lot.
I liked a lot of the lore that they built upon that from games, and that they kind of like changed a little bit. They did whatever, but like it's a Fallout game, so it's a whole bunch of different factions. You're always in a different location. It's always similar, but just different enough to where you're just like, okay, that's new.
Yeah.
So I like that they were able to build upon that, but I also like that they combined
Mhm.
universes, because the way that I originally saw this in like the first 2 episodes, which I also have to talk about, and then the ending, the final shot of the show, in order to talk about this. So once again, heavy spoiler. I saw this more as a New Vegas sequel than 100% its own thing, because New Vegas wasn't created by Bethesda. It was created by Obsidian, and they probably didn't want to feel like outsourcing that again, since
Yeah.
they're kind of in competition now with a bunch of their games.
Mm.
They just kind of gave you this story instead of making that game, and they really build on it and whatever, and just seeing that culture and all these things
Mm.
from New Vegas that I haven't seen anywhere else, because I didn't play the early Fallout games that I do believe take place on the West Coast more, but
Sure.
I can't confirm that. It's just, you're seeing all this stuff. You're seeing the NCR. You're seeing New Vegas at the final shot of the show.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
It gave me like, it definitely gave me Easter egg vibes of me being like, oh, if I knew more about Fallout, I know what that is.
And that's what it is I went into this, and there was so many things that I'm like, oh, I know exactly what this is. I am a fan of the show. I love all these things. I know what
Yeah.
all this stuff is. But at the beginning there, when they're in the vault and they're fighting, you see this guy take a hit of an inhaler, and if you don't play Fallout, you're like,
have no
oh,
idea what that is.
that dude's got asthma. No, he's just doing hard fucking drugs.
right.
And
Yeah.
he's gonna murder someone.
See, as somebody on the outside who doesn't know too much about the show or
Yeah.
the games, or is not hardcore into the lore, I'm happy that they gave like harder core Easter eggs for people, but also like little ones. So I
Yeah.
could be like, he's doing the thing, or they got stim packs, or like, I think it's episode 6 or 7 where they have the menu music as the song ending the episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do I know exactly what that sound is?
Oh, there's a lot of songs. They start with, I believe, I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire as like the intro song to
Yeah.
the show, which is like starting off on the
Yeah.
right fucking
Perfect.
note, man. Amazing.
There was no Take Me Home.
And no, but they
will.
might get there. Well, at the same time, that is more East Coast. But having said that, you played Fallout 4, correct?
Yes, not entirely.
The airship that the Brotherhood had was the airship in this show
Sure.
that the Brotherhood had, and they also mentioned the Commonwealth in
Yes.
one of the
Yes,
early
they do.
episodes. And the first night that he takes the armor from, he's clearly from fucking Boston. So I like that they're bridging the gap with the East and West a little bit here with the Brotherhood, even though it's kind of like,
They're just trying to take a lot of the aspects of the different games and shove them all into one, but
Yeah.
they're doing it well and correctly. It's not pandering or forced. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, so he's going here, so that means he's going to Easter egg from this game and
Yeah.
from here and fucking whatever. That I like a lot. As the show progresses, I think from a story standpoint, stellar. It felt like what the CW would try to achieve, but done correctly, where you have an overarching villain and you have this overarching story that they're working on the whole time. But sometimes, even when it doesn't take place front and center, there's intriguing stories going on around it. Like there's good,
Yeah.
interesting shit that they just happen to get into. And it's because these 3 characters are so diverse, but also so fucking good.
I don't think I liked characters more than these characters. Mainly because of what I said earlier. Watching it, just being like, that's literally just me. I would do that. I get this. I understand all this. That's really what it comes down to with being a fan of things, which is things that I kind of like feel like we struggled with recently in like fandoms.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it now is like we have video games, we have shows, you have these like
There's so much
fantasy things
diversity,
of
but there's
people.
also
really envisioning themselves as these
Yeah.
characters, and they're always talking about representation
Mhm.
and whatever, and like, well, I want this character to be this whatever,
Mhm.
just like specifically this kind of person because as a writer, like I want to show myself in that.
Mhm.
And with these, it felt like they just made them generic enough to where it feels like anyone who's played the game would understand and connect with at least one of these
Yes.
characters. And that's what they really nailed.
Yeah. I don't know who the writers were. I don't know what they've done in the past, but they fucking
Yeah.
hit it.
Yeah.
Uh, from a story standpoint, I think it was crazy. I don't know about you, right? But there was not a point in this story or where it wound up going where I was like, oh, I expected that, or like I could have predicted that, or whatever. Like all the way up until the end, they're like, oh yeah, you got this ghoul here and the dad and whatever. And she's like, well, it actually means that your dad dropped the bomb and that ghoul is your fucking mom. And now you're really upset. What are you gonna do? I didn't expect any of that. I thought it went in a phenomenal way.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like is when the Brotherhood attacked in the end.
I loved it. I got an NCR versus Brotherhood battle sequence in a
Yeah.
show that I did not expect to get that from. I loved the NCR has always been my favorite faction, and I've always wanted them to be the ones to unify the United States. So to see them have
Mhm.
that moment where they have all this like city that's bustling and fucking thriving,
Mhm.
and this guy comes along and fucks it up, kind of as a fan of that group, sucked to hear about
Mhm.
because it's almost like the end of the NCR, but then at the same time, this ending, even though the NCR seems like it is kind of dead again because the head woman died
Mhm.
with it, she turned on the power. So she did something. So if she
Yeah.
has followers anywhere, I don't know if that's going to help them grow and do whatever. And that's really what I'd like to see. Because as
Yeah.
a fan of Fallout, even though the apocalypse is what it is, I do want to see some reunification down the line.
See what would happen if they actually succeeded in
Yeah.
rebuilding the
And
surface.
I want to say that this is the most far along one because they said this takes place like 7 years or 9 years after Fallout 4.
Mhm.
And I if they do go in timeline order like that, this is as far as we've gotten. So we can really see a bunch of stuff come together almost.
Are all of the games in one universe?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. There's also a rumor that it's also the distant past of Skyrim, and Skyrim's actually in the same universe but in the future.
I'd believe that.
Um,
Radiation creating shit.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Which is why there's a plant called Nernroot, which is in both games, and I
Ah,
believe a sweet roll.
a sweet roll?
Yeah,
Sure.
you don't know what a sweet roll
Nope,
is?
not a clue.
Okay, is it dessert?
I think it's the only thing I really liked is we have this trend nowadays to do these shows. Like Obi-Wan is a really big example of making a small limited show an event. Right? They go, all right, this is an 8 episode limited series. We're only going to do this, blah blah blah, huge budget. We want the payoff. And then because of that, they shove as much story as they can, or they try to hit just the biggest beats, but then also make it as long as they claim. And it winds up being the crutch of the show.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, all right, we need to have a beginning and an end. Fuck around in the middle. There's an end point that we need to get to because then that's it. We're done. In this, they're like, look, throwing shit at the wall. Of course, we got all the money. We got all whatever. We have this quality character and story that we're building. We want it to continue. We're not just going to be like, oh, it's a game adaptation. Game adaptations have never done well. We don't have the confidence in it. Amazon was clearly like, hey, we're not going to touch it. Just like do it. And if it's good, we'll keep
Yeah.
going. If it's not, money.
What I find really funny is I saw a interview with Todd Howard when they were doing the release,
Yeah.
and someone said, "Oh, IGN gave it a 9." He was like, "They give it a 9?" And like he seemed a little bit happy
Surprised? Yeah.
and like surprised, but also didn't smile, and then like took a step back.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Did you want
Did you
this
expect
to
a 10?
bomb? Like what? Like I didn't know what it was because like
Yeah.
the next Sky Elder Scrolls game
Mm.
is supposedly his last thing in
Oh,
Bethesda
yeah. He's almost done.
before he ends. And I think deep down he does like Fallout more than Skyrim.
Yeah.
I mean, God damn it, Elder Scrolls. Just because it seems like that's more what he's wanted to focus on. And
Yeah.
he came
There's
on.
so
They did
much
a bunch of
effort in
things, yeah.
Fallout. It's clear.
Mhm.
Like from a fan perspective or from the fan base to, I won't say the quality of the games because sometimes they're rushed, but from the quality of the lore and the effort that's put into it, it's
Yeah.
clear that Fallout is like the go-to. I feel like if Elder Scrolls, understandably, you're going to put a fucking ton of effort and time into it. If Elder Scrolls was as big of a thing to him, more would have come out by now instead of just riding Skyrim.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was more passion in that, it wouldn't be like, all right, people work on this and on this. He'd be like, all right, all hands on deck, get this fucking game out.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, we're gonna work on Elder Scrolls 6, but first let's pump out a couple Fallout games because I want people to have that.
And my one passion project, which sucks because I took
Starfield?
sci-fi and then made it the most dull version you could have had.
Yeah, you
that's-
remember we reviewed that really well at first?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like, well, you have Fallout, which the lore was there. He bought it to make Fallout 3. So that you already had 2-3 games worth of
Yeah.
lore and world building. Elder Scrolls, he wasn't always with Bethesda. He was an Elder Scrolls fan and then joined on later on. So once again, that lore and base structure was there. Starfield, he created,
yeah,
and it seems pretty boring because he's the one who was in charge of that lore
yeah.
and doing whatever.
He wanted. He wanted it. He wanted the new IP. He wanted to steer the ship.
Yeah.
And I mean, for what it is, right? At first, Starfield, fun.
Because
There's a lot there. It's just also like
he wanted to leave his mark because, like, the rest of these games, like I just said, weren't
Weren't
his
his,
baby.
yeah.
And he's like, well, if I'm ending now, I want to at least maybe create a new IP that way that can
yeah.
live on. And
When
that
I
way
look
live
back, I
on.
want to see
Yeah.
the thing that I've created myself carry on.
But having said that, this show really is something that may save them and
I would
keep
agree.
them in the mainstream. And that's my favorite thing about this is usually watching a TV show. If I'm enjoying it, I'm like, oh, this is good, this is great, I love watching this. Or it's something that's been on for a while and people are like, this is a great show, you have to watch
You
this.
have to do it. You got to watch the whole thing.
Never really watched a show before where I went, I think I'm witnessing something happen.
Yeah.
Where I think, like, I know this is already like a cultural phenomenon in the video game world, but I think this show may become like Game of
It
Thrones,
has the
Breaking
potential.
Bad,
Yeah.
kind of just worldwide phenomenon.
We just need to ignore the fact that it's a game.
Yeah.
Because it, like, if you're not in it, if you're not in the Fallout fandom, it doesn't feel like a video game. It just feels like this huge story that has all this opportunity for lore and whatever that it is.
But at the same time, some of the things that they're doing do feel almost beat for beat like genuine Fallout quests.
Yes.
Which is,
I just feel like the barrier to entry is better.
yes.
So it has the potential to do exactly
But
that.
it's kind of like what I mentioned before, is that it does a really good job of giving you just enough information to where, like,
You could follow along.
you
and
could follow along if you don't know anything, but at the same time, like, people who do know everything, you're doing it in a great way where it's really cool to where those fans are enjoying what you're getting.
Yeah.
And it's also, like, my favorite thing was, I know Voltec's got nothing but fucking experiments in their vaults. I know
Yeah.
that 99.9 of them are just hellholes that you don't want to be in. And I know that Vaultec is responsible for a whole bunch of shit. But
I had no
during-
idea that Vault Tech dropped the bomb. That blew me away.
That I did not know. So I had a conversation with Isaiah about this where he thought that the Enclave did it, which you know who the Enclave. Okay. Well,
Vault Tech dropped the bomb
I'm
twice.
not going to get into that, but they said that they had like a patent or whatever for like the end of the world, but like half of it. I think they said like half of like
Half of the patent or half of the end of
half
humanity?
of humanity survival or something. Like they
Oh.
said that they sold like half of it to them. So I believe that the Enclave still probably had something to do with it, but then Vaultec was the other side of it, and it makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
knowing all these things that they're doing. Like it lines up pretty perfectly. So that was a bit of a surprise to me, but a lot of it, them being evil, the experiments doing whatever, I knew that was the case the entire time. But still watching her brother, of Hannah Montana fame,
Yes.
is
was so
just
funny.
unraveling this mystery. And even though I knew it couldn't be something good, he made it just intriguing enough to where I really wanted
I was
to know
very
where it went.
curious and following along.
Yeah, even though
Yeah.
I knew it probably wasn't going to be good. And two, like, they threw a curveball that I didn't even see coming, knowing
What?
how they did it. It being a robot just being in the other vault, and then
Oh, yeah.
it, like them being cryogenically frozen and whatever. I'm like, okay, that's definitely up that alley, but I did not
fucking
expect
love
it to
that.
happen.
I love because you know I've only really played 4, so my
Yeah.
biggest assumption or the biggest thing that I not assume the biggest thing that I associate with Fallout is the cryopods. As you know, in the beginning of 4, it's
Yeah.
the dad and fucking whatever. I love that they didn't do anything with that the entire show until you got to the end, and they were like, "Oh look, everybody's frozen. We're figuring things out. They're thawing out one by one." I was like, "Oh, Easter egg for me and only me." Dude, I fuck with it hardcore.
Okay, so I got into an argument with someone watching this
Okay.
just to see what they thought and what you think now.
Mm.
I still viewed that other vault that they went into as bad people.
Which one?
The one
32?
with all the
With the dead people?
no, the one with all like the science experiments and stuff like that
Oh,
that
yeah.
they were having, and the cult that
Yeah.
for the woman who's now dead. So what's going to happen with that cult is going to be weird. But I still saw them as bad people,
Mm.
and the other person who watched it was just like, no, they're not bad people. The bad people were in charge of the vault, and they kind of slowly took over.
Mm.
And I'm like, but they still don't
They're
seem.
still doing the experiments and
Yeah, and they're trying to
whatever,
like do whatever, and then he's just like, oh, they let them go, and I'm like, no, they banished them to die on the surface. Like that's
and gave them 2 weeks worth of supplies.
yeah, which is still like a nice thing to do, but at the same time, you just banish someone in order
Yeah.
to murder them. Also, Chris Parnell out of nowhere, being
Who?
the Cyclops,
Oh, yes.
he's
That's probably the most out of left field scene was I'm sitting here with Timmy when they're doing the little cult thing and they're all getting
Yeah.
together. I'm sitting here, I'm like, the guy's like, oh, I'm really not a big fan. It gets a little weird for me. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be an orgy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a really weird fuck session.
Yeah.
And they all go in there and they're just like they're doing they're doing their praises. I was like, oh, just a weird cult. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. They're just like celebrating the dead. And then Timmy's like, no, it's a sacrifice. And then it does a shot of the above the table and the woman's walking up. She's not wearing her vault's gear or anything. I'm like, oh, they're gonna fucking kill someone. Okay, well, a little weird. I can understand why this guy doesn't want to be
Yeah.
there. And then immediately naked,
Yeah.
drinking blood,
I-
ashes on their foreheads.
I absolutely loved when they all start getting naked and you see Lucy and everything's just like, oh, and then she pulls down her thing a little bit and she just goes, that's enough. And it's just like
I'm a part of what's going
I'm
on.
definitely a part of this, but I'm not down for what we're doing.
And then they're like, oh, put these on. And she's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll put this on there. And they're
And then
like,
she's just like, this is dead people.
bathe in in the ashes of our
Yeah.
fallen. And she's like,
I
what?
just wiped dead guy in my
and
face.
then the one woman is just taking the blood and she's fucking chugging the blood.
Yeah.
You're like,
I also loved that, like, I didn't expect her to lose a finger in the first couple
and
episodes.
they held it.
And
They held on to it.
yeah, and she has a new finger now,
Yeah.
and then he has her finger, so they like traded fingers, kind of in a way.
Kind of.
I'd like to see if that goes further or if that's just what
I
it
think
is.
that's going to be it.
And
I just
as
hope they
far
don't forget.
as like effort and continuity goes, like there were a couple shots where like her hand was like really small
Yeah.
and like wasn't the main focus, but that finger was
It was
there.
still there. Exactly.
It-
That's
it
what I'm
was
saying.
good.
There was a lot of shots where it was like just her head and her
Yeah.
hand would come up. She like fixes her hair.
The finger's there,
Finger.
and I'm like, okay, so you guys clearly thought about this.
Yes.
You put in effort. Which
Whoever's in
shows-
charge is someone who cares
Yeah.
and loves the game series and the show.
well,
and
Todd
pays
Howard
attention.
was involved.
Well, I'm sure he was involved, but there's
Yeah.
no way that he's there on set every day going like, no, make sure
No.
this is there.
But as
It's
far as
clear,
the writing
like-
goes, yeah.
Yeah, it's clear that the people, like the little fucking gaggle of people that are there every day are like, well, no, make sure this is happening. And this, well, what about, we already filmed this, so make sure this is there. That kind of shit I liked a lot.
Yeah, this is definitely the greatest show that I have seen in recent
Mhm.
memory, and the most excited I have been for something.
It's probably the best thing we've reviewed all year.
Probably the best thing we reviewed on this channel as far as TV shows go.
As far, what other TV shows?
Like we do like Invincible and stuff like that, a bunch
Invincible's
of Disney
pretty high
stuff
up
and
there.
Marvel stuff, but it's just like,
I would say this is definitely up there. It's probably number one, if not number two.
yeah,
And then in general, I mean, we also just like haven't had a lot of luck all year because everything that keeps coming out except for like Godzilla was like, oh, we watched this, we hated this.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do this again.
so I'm just really excited.
I want
season 2.
more. I want more, and I know it's going to take like 2 or 3 fucking years, and that's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
I can wait until I'm 30.
Was there anything in the show that you noticed that you would consider an Easter egg or anything like that that you like really loved?
Needed my fiddle toy. In terms of an Easter egg, no. I haven't played enough
Mhm.
to be able to think or know about it. I think my favorite part or the funniest part was when Maximus is in the suit and he first like goes out and there's those 2 guys fighting each other and he kicks the one off and he's like, listen, man, no killing or like stop it. And the guy's like, thank you, sir. I bid you adieu.
Yeah.
And he goes, I was gonna kill him. He was fucking my chickens. And Maximus's reaction and mine were the same. We're like,
oh, fuck.
am I supposed to go kill him now? Is that a oh no, that's okay. I'll leave him alone.
And then that dude healed
Comes
that
back and
dude's foot,
Turns him into a ghoul.
which was the most grotesque shit
Yeah.
ever.
That's when I'm like, oh, they're really committing to this.
yeah.
Because usually, right, in any other show, he takes off the sock, it cuts away, or it's like a little bloody or like whatever. No, in this, they're like, every time he peels off the sock, it gets fucking worse.
Yeah.
This time he peels it off and it's like, oh, I can see the bone.
It's like part of
See
his
the other
skin
part of the
now, like,
bone.
it's healing already a little
Yeah.
bit. But
His
gross.
toe is just like hanging
Yeah.
off. I'm like, honestly, at that point, just pull the shit off.
Yeah.
Seems fucking useless to have there.
There was a lot
And then
of...
they show it healing. That was
Yeah.
just as gross.
Yes, it was.
He could have been like, oh my God, cut away. And he like has the boot on. He's like, I feel so much. No, they're like, watch as the bone
Yeah.
back together. And this is sewn back on.
These aren't really Easter eggs either, but there's
What?
two things that I want to touch on. One, because I think it was cool, and the other one, because it's just going to turn into a fucking meme, and I'm ready for it. It's back to when she was just like, "Oh, hey, you want to fuck?" Because he was like, "You smell good," and she's like, "You want to have sex?" And he was like, no, because like that weird thing might happen where like
it gets all hard and
big and like full like a and it explodes
it
like
pops
a
like a
pimple.
pimple.
And I'm like, don't ever fucking describe something like that again. Oh, and he was just like, "Oh, you mean with my cock?" And I'm like, "Who the fuck?" I'm like, you can't just throw that out there as
That
a
is
sentence
a very
like that.
powerful word.
It is. And like
You could say penis.
and like that right there, just, "Oh, you mean my cock?" It's gonna be a meme. It's gonna be a meme. And it's just, I love that. And
Yeah.
it's moments like that where like he's so dumb and he's got like
Mm.
this kind of lisp that comes in sometimes,
Yeah.
and it just
It's a
kind of
very like specific word.
gives him like Forrest Gump vibes sometimes. And
I mean, that's kind of the vibe you get from him.
he's
Not that
just
he like doesn't know what he's doing, but he's very like
so dumb.
he has a very specific look too, where he
Yeah.
finds out something he doesn't like, and he's like,
He's also does like I want to say this, but at the same time I don't know if I'm being mean because I don't know if it's an acting choice or the actor's face,
"What?"
where his mouth is always just kind of like, and he's got like these kind of like puckered lips, but like he's still kind of frowning, where he's just kind of like,
I'm constantly a little sad.
yeah.
All right.
And like that's just his thinking face.
Yeah, that's just how he looks.
The other one is the ghouls transitioning into feral ghouls,
Mm.
where they're just sitting there repeating their name over and over again, trying to hold on to that last
Yeah.
bit of humanity they have, is fucking great.
Oh my god, dude! And then he shoots him in the head, and I'm like, oh, he was so nice. He put him out of his misery. And he takes the ghoul, he flips him over, takes a knife, cuts into his spine, cuts into his butt. Takes it. He's like, I'm not gonna make the butt jerky myself. You're like, oh, that was your friend that you killed for food.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever you want.
The only thing that was new that I don't have a problem with, I just don't know where it fits into everything, and if it was included in past games and I just wasn't aware of it, is the vials of stuff that he needs to stay. Like,
yeah, but I like
on
that
normal-
because it's like a
it's cool, but it's also weird. But also, it's just, man, him as a character.
perfect.
I-
The CG on his nose too.
Yeah, I love Lucy. She is nice.
Ba-doom.
Yeah. Oh. I wonder if that's why they called her that.
I kind of get that vibe from her.
Because like that 50s like
Yeah,
black
exactly.
and white TV show like definitely probably knows what that is. But she's fucking fantastic, but
He just is
so
on a whole other
cool.
fucking level.
The end when he like fucking shoots that guy in the power armor, he's like, I wonder if it still has that weak spot, just poof, and you just see the whole power armor just go down really quick. You're like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
they're in danger.
The props look fucking beautiful
They're
too.
great.
The gun, and every time he has a specific bullet,
Yeah.
he pulls it up and they show it in the shot, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Her pistol that she finds looked
1
great.
to 1.
The
So
stimpaks
good.
look good. I talked about the drugs earlier. The jet
Yeah.
looking accurate. The rat away. The vomiting of just
Yep.
You have rat poisoning, man.
You gotta sit down. You gotta do this. You're gonna fucking die.
I also love the concept of, I don't know if like this was mentioned in other games as well, but that they called it rads pre-war too. They weren't. It was like, oh, it's radiation. And then like as time
Rads.
went on, they're like, it's rads, man. No, he was
Yeah.
like, keep out those pesky rads. And I'm like, you guys are fucking too nonchalant about radiation poisoning.
I gotta tell you, the one thing I didn't like, right? And it's a very specific thing.
Same. I have one.
It's in the end, like it's the 7th episode, where they're going back in time and they're figuring out that that Vault Tech are the ones that dropped the bomb, and Walter Goggins is in the office and he's listening, and it's clear, right? Because they're like, oh, all the people that are ruling the vaults are just Vault Tech employees that we froze. Okay, Betty, recast, different woman to look younger. That's fine. Other people recast so that way they look like their younger selves. The dad, that famous actor who I can't remember the name of, de-aged.
Yes.
Horrible.
I didn't think anybody else was recast though.
Well, I really only noticed Betty, but they were recast for their younger selves.
Yeah.
because that's what would make sense. But you had to have it be the dad and de-age because that was the big reveal. If it
Yes.
was a lookalike, you'd be like, I think I know who that is, but I don't get it.
And
And the de-age man, his eyes, his face standing still, great. He deliberately made sure not to like move his face a lot.
yeah.
His eyes dead, looking two different directions. He's going to shake a hand, but he's not looking at you. He's like, hey man, how you doing?
I want to say that it was not great, but as someone who isn't part of a Disney corporation,
That's exactly.
and a TV
yes.
show that I thought was probably going to be a little bit lower on the budget and doing
Yeah.
whatever, committing to a deep fake, and it
Yeah.
looking as good as it did,
Mhm.
I got to commend them on that.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't look good, but for a company that is not throwing hundreds of millions at the wall for ILM to do something and then throw it away to do it again.
Yeah.
Fine. Especially because
good.
it's only like a 30-second scene.
And I just love that that's the dude from the original Dune movies.
Yes.
And like he hasn't been in much lately, and now
How I
that
Met
Dune's
Your
coming
Mother.
out, he's also simultaneously doing his own thing. So
Yeah.
I like that. And I also like that they didn't kill him at the end.
Yeah.
He's now just still out there.
He's gonna he was like the one of the bigger actors in the show that I'm sure could
Yeah.
draw in a certain kind of audience.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. This isn't like a paycheck for one thing and then we're getting rid of him. He's a character.
Yeah.
He's gonna be here.
And as
That I fuck with.
much of a fucking moron as I keep saying that not Dark Brotherhood, wrong Bethesda game. The Brotherhood of Steel guy is at the end when he just gets bludgeoned in the
Yeah.
fucking head and unconscious. He's got to be even dumber now.
Oh yeah.
He's got brain damage.
Terminally
So-
concussed.
and now he's in charge of this faction of the Brotherhood. It seems like pretty much. Even though
No. They
he's a
said
knight,
he was gonna get knighted.
but like there was no high-ranking commander there or anything.
No.
So I'm like, now you have this guy who doesn't even truly believe in what the Brotherhood's doing.
Yeah.
Doing whatever. So like, is he then gonna go down a darker path?
Yeah.
Where he joins the Brotherhood more officially and like does their fucked up things,
Mhm.
or is he going to kind of
Help steer the Brotherhood into a different direction.
Yeah,
Or
or-
sabotage them even.
no like? I want to say rebrand, but that's not the word I mean.
Rebuild.
Yeah, I guess reorganize. Like they're
Yeah.
like you're
Just
steer them in
change
the
their
right
values
direction.
to be like, look, this is not using our cocks is not good.
Yeah.
We can use
we
our
can
cocks.
use the pimple action, and they
Pimple
like
action
it.
is good.
And-
That's my other small complaint, right?
Yeah.
My 2 complaints about the show are very small. Was there a scene where he told Lucy his real name? She refers to him as Titus because that is what he tells her
Yes.
his name is the whole time, except for when he's knocked unconscious. At which point
he
it's
told her.
Max. When did he tell her?
At some point, he had a conversation about it.
To tell her it was his name?
She was just like, "Oh, is there anything else or whatever?" He's like, "I'm not a real knight." I think it was when they were under the bridge. Like I would think it was kind of early on.
No. So I remember her calling him
No.
Titus like episode 6 or 7.
I mean, she may have just kept calling him that, but she knew who he was. I definitely remember them having a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was.
I hope
Oh,
they
I think it was
did.
when he was in the bathrobe.
I hope they
Fucking
did.
Him
Fucking
munching
idiot.
away in his fucking
And he's
popcorn in his
he's-
bathrobe.
and he's just watching a waterfall.
yeah, fucking fuzzy slippers. I'm just watching Waterfall. Comes back to an hour later. I wonder what he's watching. Waterfall.
Were there drugs in the food, or was he just at peace and he's fucking stupid?
No, he just lived in the wasteland. He's like, this is TV. So even though it was just the same
just-
infomercial on a fucking loop, he's like, this is just what could be better.
His reaction is also like the most genuine one that I saw, where he goes in there, they have a basket for him, he takes this out, he's like, and he comes out, and he's not like curious, he's panicked. He's like, "What is this?" Hey, what?
To me, I got it as he tasted it, and it was just he put it in his mouth, and it wasn't just like, oh fuck, that's good. It was no fucking way. What is this? And he just walks out, just
See, in my head,
confused.
he was going, "Is this good or is this poo?"
I think he was just like, there's no fucking way. And he walked out, and it wasn't like, what is this? Like, what are you feeding? He was just like, what is this? Like,
It wasn't like
what have I never tasted?
it wasn't
Why-
curiosity; it was concern.
It was concern out of enjoyment, though. It was just like, how the fuck do I not know what this is?
He comes out. Maybe that's one of my favorite scenes in the show.
Yeah.
He comes out and he's like, he's confused, panicked, and the first guy to come by, he's like, he doesn't go, "Hey, can you answer a question for me? I'm really." He goes, the guy walks by and goes, "Hey, what is
But
this?"
like that's what he's dumb in a way where you're not just like kind of like that character where you're like stop making the bad decisions guy. He's
Yeah.
dumb and just like what is this? What is this idiot gonna fucking do right now? And it's funny. He's comic relief in a great way.
He's like unintentional comic relief.
yes,
It's built into his character where he fucks something up and goes,
and it's the mouth.
"Yeah." The significant mouth actor.
Yeah, it's just all in the mouth.
What are you doing?
The wires, man.
The wires,
Just
man.
All the wires. But it's just I finished the show and immediately wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I'm very cynical on this channel. I very much am like I'm
Because we both
do
try to be
whatever.
honest, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the nitpicking we do on the channel is not saying like this show is bad. It's a lot of it is like, oh, I enjoy this, but here's the problem.
Yes.
Because complaining gets views.
And having said that, this is my problem. The amount of times they showed the clip of him as a child walking out of that fucking
Yeah.
fridge. I understand that that's like his like moment where he just like sees the
Yeah.
the Brotherhood of Steel. He sees all this stuff happening. It's kind of when like his life changes.
Yeah.
But you could have filmed like one or two other scenes with that child
Or just
actor.
continue the scene.
And like just see where
Instead of every time it
see
being
what the Brotherhood guy does to him. Like, does he take him in? Does he do
Does he
something?
beat his
dicky?
ass?
Yeah, like does he punch his kid in the fucking face? Like,
he's
what
like,
happened?
why aren't you dead, man?
Yeah, and maybe like an extra scene or two of the city before it got nuked.
Yeah.
Because from that 1 or 2 shots that we saw, it seemed really cool.
It was like a block.
Yeah, and I just like I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But like
Yeah.
them showing that scene over and over again was the only genuine problem I had. I'm like,
Yeah.
just branch out a little bit. I don't know what else to talk about because I loved it. And that's
It was like
simple.
even
That's
my two
all-
complaints, they're like nitpicks. They're
Yeah.
like very tiny things that happen really at the end of the show. Everything about it I was fine with. Even from like a CG standpoint. All like the animals and colors, the locations did such a good job of showing what the wasteland would be like, but without putting in like the over the top effort. Like it wasn't filmed in the volume. It was clearly like on some kind of location, but they'd be like, oh, we're in the desert. Here's one fucked up house. It's not like, oh, here's the entirety of the Commonwealth. All right. This is this block. Here's this. And you could see it like that. I don't need. But then they go into like a hallway. In the hallway, you're like, oh shit, this looks cool. This looks like, it feels like Fallout. It doesn't feel like somebody filming something to try and make it look like Fallout. It's like, all right, let me put a camera in the game and go.
Yeah.
And that I'm perfectly fine with. I can't wait for you to see what we have to fucking do next week.
Why?
Because we went from here all the way down to here.
Rebel Moon Part 2.
Rebel Moon Part 2,
Yes.
The Scavenger.
But as well, we have the movie that I'm probably one of the most hyped for so far in the year
The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
with Henry Cavill and Alan Richardson.
Yep.
It's just going to be so
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
I've seen bloopers already, and the movie's not even out, which is crazy.
That's fine. I'm sure it's because I haven't seen a ton of press about it.
I don't think they're expecting it to do well, which is why I'm very adamant
Isn't it
about
a Guy
wanting-
Ritchie movie?
I have no idea.
I think so. He keeps pumping out shit. Nobody's watching it.
It looks really good. The characters look like they're having fun. It looks like a
Yeah.
unique, like almost comic book.
Characters are having fun and the actors are having
Yeah,
fun. And they're like,
It feels comic bookish, but in
Yeah.
the way of like the Kingsman is a comic book movie.
yes.
And
I'm
I
getting Kingsman
really
vibes.
want to see that. And I don't think I don't know if it's necessarily going to bomb, but I don't know if anyone's going to go see it.
Probably gonna bomb.
And it looks like it's probably going to be really good, and I don't
Yeah.
want it to fail.
I'm tired of Henry Cavill being in things that bomb. Not because I'm tired of him, but I'm tired of people putting him in things and then they just like don't succeed. I feel like nobody has faith in him like they should, even
Yeah.
though supposedly he's in the Thunderbolts, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Next week, this is it the Scargiver or the Scavenger? Something. Rebel Moon Part 2.
Yes.
We're gonna have to rewatch the first one because I fell asleep during the first one. That's gonna be really annoying.
Okay.
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Next week's episode is going to be very fucking long, and it's going to be like a 2-day recording session.
Oh.
Because I don't know if we want to like shove all that into one day or try or whatever. It's episode 100.
Yes.
It's a very big deal. I think you and I really started our run of the bowl. It's like 63, 59, something really long ago. We've done a fucking ton.
Yeah.
And this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. So next week is going to be crazy long. It's going to be a lot of review bits and then a lot of us hanging out. Matt's going to be here for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Jimmy's going to hop on for a few minutes. We're going to reminisce a little bit because I know not the most interesting thing for us to talk about how much fun the podcast is.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, next week we'll talk about our new posting schedule and things. We'll like change some stuff and show things.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. I think we wrapped up this episode went pretty quick.
We're at like an hour.
Yeah.
We're having a good time.
Yeah.
It's very different when we like something because then we could just be like, man, I liked it.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah,
Here are the
it's
things
just
that I liked.
I'm not ranting and raving about anything.
No. I'm not complaining or yelling or anything.
No.
It's also, it felt like this week there wasn't a ton that came out or happened. I mean, there's like Sasquatch Sunset I saw came out.
Which
Something else was on our list that came out this week, but we just didn't see it.
Sasquatch Sunset is one of those things where I'm gonna watch when it comes on streaming.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
it's
go to
probably
theaters.
not gonna be good. Like, there's gonna be a niche of people who
Oh
love
yeah,
that
who
movie.
fucking because it's A24.
Yeah, but like it's just
Can you open Rotten Tomatoes?
yeah.
I feel like there's something else we were missing.
You wanted to watch that Amy Winehouse movie that got 1 star.
Is it out?
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna watch that.
no, it got 1
I
star.
heard it was bad.
Yeah,
You try to make me. I saw a clip of that online of like the side by side of a real performance versus the performance in the movie.
yeah. Oh, Civil War.
I don't have the iPad today. Okay,
Well, I'm telling
this is a big phone. I heard Abigail's really good.
okay.
Sasquatch Sunset. I wanted to watch Monkey Man. I'll probably watch that on streaming. What the fuck was it? Maybe that's it.
Civil War is the big one that
Yeah.
we're not seeing.
Yeah. Is Civil War a big one? Or is it just something people are talking about?
People
You know what's
are
really
talking
funny too is we're not covering X-Men 97 because
No.
we just
People loving that though.
Oh yeah, apparently it's really good. It's got like a 97 across the board.
X-Men were never my thing, so
It's not even X-Men weren't my thing. It's just like the cartoon. It's I feel like the barrier to entry is bigger. Like a new MCU show, I'm like, oh yeah, I can watch that fine because I'm balls deep. But X-Men, they're like, oh, there's a show that came out in the 90s, and me knowing the way I complain about things will be like, oh, it's like 720p. The voice acting's okay. I don't have nostalgia for it, so I don't have an excuse for it. Whatever.
Yeah, well, it's a new show.
Well, yeah, but it's a continuation.
Yeah, but it's not going to be 720p or.
No, the old one.
I don't think you really needed to watch the old one to watch the new one. It's just kind of supposed to be along the same vibes.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch the new one regardless.
Yeah.
That's fine. In the tier list, we'll just be like, did not watch.
Yeah.
The only one in that tier. All right, Brendan, what did we do last week?
Once again, I forget. Invincible.
Invincible. We talked about Invincible and how great and annoying that show is all at the same time.
Yep.
A lot of complaining. Really like the show regardless.
Good show, yeah. It's mainly just complaining about the length of stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the ding-a-ling bell. We're not used to saying that, but we got to say that now.
Talk to them, not me. Huh?
Hey, man.
How you been?
Ring-a-ling, the ding-a-ling bell. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends. Leave a review. Especially if you're our audio listeners. We're trying to put a bigger focus into that because we know we really didn't pay attention to you guys for a good 50 episodes.
Yeah. But it's changing.
That's right. All right, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Podcast, Spotify,
Google
Podcast, even though it just shut down. Am I forgetting anything? You have no idea.
No, I don't think so.
All right, we'll see you next week for Rebel Moon,
Okay.
Ministry, and a lot of exciting reunions.
This has been the Anything Bowl. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye-bye.